to show you how I utilized Google Sheets during my second application cycle to genetic counseling programs. This first sheet I'm going to show you is what I used when I was organizing some notes when I was comparing programs and deciding where I wanted to apply. The first thing I would do is I would enter the name of the program, and then I would hyperlink to the program's website so that it was easily accessible when I needed to find any additional information about the program or reference one of the notes I had made. I also found it to be really helpful when I decided if I was going to apply to that program to also hyperlink to the application portal when it was available. So that way I had all the links easily accessible and could go back and look at the program's website if needed and quickly get to that specific application. One of the first things I would do is I would get some basic information about the program, such as deadlines, the application fee, and tuition. A lot of programs are pretty consistent with their prerequisites that were required, but I still made note of them just in case there were any additional required courses or specifics that they would want listed. I would also make note if the GRE was required. During my first application cycle, the GRE was required by every school, but then during my second application cycle, most schools had actually dropped it or would list it as optional. I have the GRE required highlighted in yellow because I wanted to make sure that I didn't apply to any programs that did require the GRE because I didn't want to take the time to study for the GRE and pay for the test if it was only for one program and not all of them. Some things that I looked at to help me decide if I would be applying to that program were the clinical rotations, if they offered standardized patients, and also looking at how they did their thesis or capstone and also their courses. This was something where I was able to see a lot of variation between programs, such as like clinical rotations or some schools that have you in there your first semester, while some other programs have you start clinical rotations maybe the start of your second year. And there are also a lot of variation in courses where sometimes you could be taking electives or there might be more psychosocial courses or public health courses incorporated into your program. Realizing how programs could vary, that was something that I tried to make note of and reflect on what I thought would align best with my own educational goals and interests when it came to actually applying to programs. When I knew that I would be applying to a program, I would go ahead, if available, and take from the application and just put the personal statement prompt and also make note of a prompt if there was one for potentially any video statements. I found that the video statements could be really variable with schools sometimes having one question and you have 1 minute to answer, or potentially having a more in-depth question and having 5 to 6 minutes to answer. So that was something that I wanted to take note of as I began to prepare for those. Based on feedback that I got from my first application cycle, I also added this top question of why this program. During my first application cycle, I was told that I could have been more specific in the statements that I gave in my personal statements about why I was applying to specific programs. So I found it really helpful when I would be filling out this sheet with all the information about the program to make note of anything that drew me to the program or I felt aligned with my personal or educational goals. And I found it to be helpful when it came to actually doing the application, not only when it came to deciding on what schools to apply to, but also when it came to doing the personal statement. And I found it a lot easier to differentiate between programs of, say, I like program B for these 4 reasons, and that those 4 reasons are actually different than the reasons that I like program C and things like that. One tip that I would suggest is when you know where you're going to apply and you have all the deadlines, I actually organize the columns of the program in the order of the deadlines, which helped me prioritize which applications I would work on. There are a lot of different ways that you can do spreadsheets and keep up with everything for the programs that you're applying to. This is just how I decided to do it. You may want to have more information or less information. Hopefully this is a helpful example to see.